Hi everyone, I'm Jory, and in this video I will be discussing and reflecting on chapters 16 through 23 of the Tao Te Ching. Before I get into discussing, reflecting, and reading these chapters of the Tao Te Ching, I want to readdress some points I discussed while reflecting on chapters 8 through 15 of the Tao Te Ching. So, I mentioned as I was discussing meditation that your eyes must be closed during meditation, and this is not necessarily true all the time. You can meditate with your eyes open. Yet the point was you must be focused on an inner stillness, that darkness within darkness. Meditation can take the form of many things, such as walking in nature, such as listening to certain frequencies and affirmations, such as smelling certain aromas, even such as actively creating art and singing. So meditation can very well involve the senses too. When you are in meditation, you are somewhat detached. And in this detachment, you are connected to the divine. I also want to address what I said about conducting yourself with your heart as open as the sky. I was thinking about soul connections and how we as souls are essentially one soul. We are essentially one soul connected to and coming from the soul of the divine. So when we are in alignment with the divine, we are really connected to all things. And so we must have the spiritual ability to discern, to be selective about what we allow in our energy fields. We must consciously choose what we allow in our energy fields. So if you are in a committed and loyal relationship and union, your soul discerns all other love connections, all other connections, all soul contracts with other souls that are non-platonic, that are platonic even. And especially these non-platonic soul contracts cease. If you choose a certain timeline, the highest timeline aligned with your soul, you discern the energy and connections from past timelines, and they cease. Though your heart be open as the sky, you practice discernment, and clearing of your own energy field of what you choose to allow, because you do have the power to direct your own energy and allow in what you choose to allow. I myself practice this discernment as I embody the higher vibrational version of myself. The past versions of me and the timelines that go along with those versions of me cease. Nothing attached to those timelines are attached to the energy I am embodying right now in this present moment. And when I say cease, I mean cease to exist, cease to have an effect on the vibration I am vibrating at in this point in my spiritual journey. They cease to influence the way I function and operate as a high vibrational being, choosing and being selective about what I allow in my energy field. The only energy that my soul allows is this divine, loyal, committed relationship and divine union that naturally falls into place, that is mirrored and reflected in my vibration as I embody my highest version of myself, as I connect with the divine in meditation, as I embody my truest self, who I am. This connection that reciprocates that divine love energy effortlessly and naturally. That love that on this path I am. That love through the Tao I am. That love through the way I am. That alignment. Now, before I begin chapter 16, I'm going to drink some water. Now I'm ready, centered, grounded. I feel energetically connected to an inner love that is supporting me. This love is an energy that is the source of my passion. There has never been a time where this energy has not been there in me, in the abundance of love that exists. This energy in me here now, in the present moment, propels me, moves me to creative action, moves me to embody who I am unapologetically. This is divine love energy. This is union, divine union, coming from that darkness within darkness that leads to the light. This love is my light, is my inner vision, is my inner wisdom, is my soul light. Divine love, the way, the Tao, the path, this darkness within darkness that leads to the light, in this sense, is the flame that ignites, that is infinite, that is abundant, that endures, that gives life, that keeps safe, that provides that space in which the soul the light grows. Now, I feel that more of what I'm discussing here will come up in future videos and as I read and discuss and reflect on the Tao. Chapter 16 of the Tao states, empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king, immersed in the wonder of the Tao. You can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you are ready. And that concludes chapter 16 of the Tao Te Ching. In this chapter of the Tao Te Ching, in chapter 16 of the Tao, the Tao talks about the source and how everything comes from the source and the importance of realizing this, where you come from. Because when you understand where you come from, when you understand you are this source, you understand that when you are centered in the source, in the Tao, immersed in the wonder of the Tao, you can deal with whatever life brings you. The source is your inner peace. Returning to the source, the Tao says, is serenity. We must not allow the illusion that there is anything else besides the source that governs the universe. Because there is only the source that governs the universe. There is only peace, serenity. There is only this amusement, kind-heartedness, and everything else is the illusion. Centered in the Tao, you understand that all returns to this common source. So let your heart be at peace, the Tao says. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Allow yourself to exist in this meditative state so that you exude your vibration of love clearly and unapologetically. Beginning chapter 17 of the Tao Te Ching, the Tao states, when the master governs, the people are hardly aware that she exists. Next best is a leader who is loved. Next, one who is feared. The worst is one who is despised. If you don't trust the people, you make them untrustworthy. The master doesn't talk, she acts. When her work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it all by ourselves. And that concludes chapter 17 of the Tao Te Ching. In chapter 17 of the Tao, the Tao talks about governing because the Tao is what governs the universe. And so one who is aligned with the source, with the way, with the Tao, in their own way governs. They are leading the collective consciousness as they exude the vibration of love. And the Tao talks about how this is done, the nature of the Tao, and how the Tao governs the universe. The Tao says, if you don't trust the people, you make them untrustworthy. Thus, the Tao, trust, to be aligned with the source, the way, the Tao, to connect with that darkness within darkness that leads to the light. is to trust. This connects to the meditative state in that one must empty their minds of all thought and let their heart be at peace. The source, the way, the Tao, that darkness within darkness that leads to the light, is peace. That light is trust. That light is love. When you are aligned with the Tao, following the way, when you are on the path, you are in a state of trusting the unfolding of your spiritual journey, of your inner journey, because that is the source. That is the nature of the source. And that is what you are when you are aligned with the Tao, with the way, with that darkness in darkness that leads to the light. The Tao says, the master doesn't talk, she acts. Thus, the Tao is acting in the inaction. The Tao completes everything without doing anything. All the Tao needs to do is exist. All the source needs to do is exist. All the divine needs to do is exist. Because the divine is already complete, whole, one with divine, one with that darkness within darkness that leads to light. Just as all we need to do is exist, really, there is no function other than existing and exuding the vibration of love that is the purpose. When you allow yourself to exist without trying to go up and down the ladder as stated in the divine, when you keep your 2 feet on the ground, when you remain grounded, you are in inner harmony, in inner equilibrium, in the space of meditation, in the space of peace. In connectedness to the source, to the divine. And in this inaction, you are in fact acting and completing everything by doing nothing. You are fulfilling your purpose by existing. existing in this space of divine love. Now beginning chapter 18 of the Tao Te Ching. The Tao states, when the great Tao is forgotten, goodness and piety appear. When the body's intelligence declines, cleverness and knowledge step forth. When there is no peace in the family, filial piety begins. When the country falls into chaos, patriotism is born. And that concludes chapter 18 of the Tao Te Ching. In chapter 18 of the Tao talks about harmony and equilibrium, the give and take, the yin, the yang of the nature of life and the universe. When chaos seemingly strikes, the governing order of the Tao, of the way, of the path, of that darkness within darkness that is light, surges. This serenity, this peace, the source, the divine love surges. The Tao says everything returns to the source. So trust. Empty your mind of all thoughts and let your heart exist in peace, the Tao says. On our spiritual journeys, everything is not easy. It's not an easy task, this spiritual journey. Yet, once you do the inner work, once you arrive in this space of meditation, this is the essence of wisdom. You are in union with the divine love. Once you know where you come from, the source, the light. This reminds me of the saying, the path to the light seems dark. And to not be afraid of the night. Because in that darkness is the light. The Tao is hidden. The Tao is not something that can be viewed with your human eyes. The Tao says, when the great Tao is forgotten, goodness and piety appear. The Tao said, the master does her work and forgets her work. This forgetting is important, this emptying your mind of all thoughts, even the ideas of the Tao, is important in order to embody the divine love, the source that is the Tao. This is subconscious. Subconsciousness. Speaking of the Tao leads to non-understanding of the Tao. But immersing yourself in the Tao is to exist as the Tao. The spokes are less important than the whole, the emptiness, the nothingness, the subconscious, the subconsciousness. Let's begin chapter 19 of the Tao. The Tao states, throw away holiness and wisdom, and people will be 100 times happier. Throw away morality and justice, and people will do the right thing. Throw away industry and profit, and there won't be any thieves. If these three aren't enough, just stay at the center of the circle and let all things take their course. And that concludes chapter 19 of the Tao Te Ching. In chapter 19 of the Tao talks about getting rid of the conceptions of holiness, wisdom, morality, justice, industry, profit. And in doing so, people will act in accordance with the Tao. Because the Tao said, and the Tao says, if you don't trust the people, you make the people untrustworthy. If you set up these rules and regulations and laws and have these ideas and conceptions of what is good, then the opposite is created. The opposite of these conceptions of what is good, what is a good person, is created because of duality. Because of this idea that if this is this, then that is that. Once you rid the mind, the collective, the paradigm, the culture of these ideas and conceptions of goodness. The goodness in people surges. I feel that what the Tao is specifically emphasizing in saying holiness, wisdom, morality, justice, industry, profit is important. The Tao says if these three aren't enough, just stay at the center of the circle and let all things take their course. So these three conceptions, holiness and wisdom, morality, justice, industry, and profit, are what influence the minds of society, the behavior of society, the soul of the collective. So to rid the mind of these conceptions would greatly influence and impact our spiritual journeys, our consciousness, and spiritual awareness and attuneness to the source, the divine. That darkness within darkness that leads to the light, the Tao, the way, the path. Once all this mud becomes clear in our minds, the path to the Tao is much clearer. Once our subconscious isn't so deeply programmed and enculturated in these particular paradigms and these three facets of society, our inner vision becomes clearer. Our energy field becomes clearer. Those of us on deeply spiritual journeys, those souls on earth here on deeply spiritual paths, experiencing the divine love, divine connections in their own way, understand how counterintuitive the society is to the spiritual journey in today's world. And when I say society, I am really talking about the paradigms, the cultural paradigms, the way the world functions, what is important, what is valued in the world. Even in this, the Tao says to love the world as yourself, to allow everything to happen, because everything returns to the source. And existing as the Tao, to simply exist, accomplishes everything, in that you exude the vibration of love here on the planet Earth and throughout the universe and the multiverse. You act with the Tao, as the Tao, whenever the chaos seemingly strikes, when you are aligned with the Tao, this divine love, in union with divine love. Now, let's begin chapter 20 of the Tao Te Ching. Chapter 20 of the Tao states, stop thinking and end your problems. What difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? Must you value what others value, avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. Other people are excited as though they were at a parade. I alone don't care. I alone am expressionless, like an infant before it can smile. Other people have what they need. I alone possess nothing. I alone drift about like someone without a home. I am like an idiot. My mind is so empty. Other people are bright. I alone am dark. Other people are sharp. I alone am dull. Other people have a purpose. I alone don't know. I drift like a wave on the ocean. I blow as aimless as the wind. I am different from ordinary people. I drink from the great mother's breast. And that concludes chapter 20 of the Tao Te Ching. In this chapter of the Tao is describing the nature of one who is embodying the Tao. This one on the path, embodying the Tao, existing as the Tao says is different from ordinary people, aimless, drifting, like someone without a home, like an idiot whose mind is so empty, an expressionless person, a person unconcerned with other people, how other people are living their lives. This person is detached from what other people value, what other people see as success and failure, how other people and what other people are contemplating. This person existing as the Tao is not sharp but dull. And so they are not constantly overworking, overthinking, living as though they know what life is. They are aimless. They are not particularly bright. They don't define themselves as one who is better than other people either. They describe themselves as an infant drinking from the great mother's breasts, dependent on the source, on the divine, fully. Possessing nothing. Nothingness is the divine. Nothingness is the Tao, the Great Mother. The Tao cannot be possessed, and so this person is nourished by the Tao. This person's soul is nourished. I feel this chapter of the Tao is vital to understanding how one must exist on this spiritual path. The focus on nothing but existing like a child, like an infant, completely unconcerned and uninterested with the idea of having life figured out, entirely connected to the source in a way that all nourishment is derived from spirit, from divine, from the Tao, from the darkness within darkness that is the light. That is the abundance of the Great Mother, where everything comes from. The Tao is describing what it means to be one with the Tao, with the Source. On the spiritual journey, on the inner journey, this represents alignment. Beginning chapter 21 of the Tao Te Ching, the Tao states, "The Master keeps her mind always at one with the Tao. That is what gives her her radiance. The Tao is ungraspable. How can her mind be at one with it? Because she doesn't cling to ideas. The Tao is dark and unfathomable. How can it make her radiant? Because she lets it. Since before time and space were, the Tao is. It is beyond is and is not. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see." And that concludes chapter 21 of the Tao Te Ching. In this chapter of the Tao talks about what being aligned with the Tao does for a soul, for a person who exists as the Tao, who is receptive to the abundance that is the Tao. The Tao says, since before time and space were, the Tao is, it is beyond is and is not. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see. This lets you know that the Tao exists in and as you. And when you know where you come from, when you go on this inner journey within yourself, you find the Tao. You not only find the Tao, you don't find the Tao, you exist as the Tao. You become aware that you are the Tao. And to exist in the Tao is to, and to exist as the Tao is to allow that source within yourself to exist, simply exist. When you allow yourself to be unapologetically who you are and vibrate and exude the vibration of love that you are, you become radiant. Your soul becomes radiant, and this is sort of paradoxal to what the Tao talks about in chapter 20, about being dark. And yet, darkness within that darkness leads to the light. The Tao is beyond is and is not, and encompasses all things, all forms. Beginning chapter 22, the Tao states, if you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to become straight, let yourself be crooked. If you want to become full, let yourself be empty. If you want to be reborn, let yourself die. If you want to be given everything, give everything up. The Master, by residing in the Tao, sets an example for all beings. Because she doesn't display herself, people can see her light. Because she has nothing to prove, people can trust her words. Because she doesn't know who she is, people recognize themselves in her. Because she has no goal in mind, everything she does succeeds. When the ancient masters said, if you want to be given everything, give everything up, they weren't using empty phrases. Only in being lived by the Tao can you be truly yourself. And that concludes chapter 22 of the Tao Te Ching. In this chapter of the Tao talks about the nature of the universe within yourself, how to become full, how to be reborn, how to be given everything, how to become whole. And what the Tao says, let yourself be those things that seem dark, that seem negative, that seem like death, in order to make way for the Tao. Make way, make space for the surge of the source. Empty your mind so as to make room for the spiritual insight, the soul nourishment. The Tao says, only in being lived by the Tao can you be truly yourself. Only in existing as the Tao can you embody your wholeness. Can you embody your fullness? Can you embody the abundance that you are? Because the abundance is the Tao. And the path to the Tao is that darkness within darkness that leads to the light. Our spiritual journey leads us to let go of the safety of belonging to society and the safety of being approved by people. But when you let that go, you welcome in the abundance of the Tao, the spiritual abundance, the divine love that you are, that your soul comes from. Beginning chapter 23 of the Tao Te Ching. The Tao states, express yourself completely, then keep quiet. Be like the forces of nature. When it blows, there is only wind. When it rains, there is only rain. When the clouds pass, the sun shines through. If you open yourself to the Tao, you are at one with the Tao, and you can embody it completely. If you open yourself to insight, you are at one with insight, and you can use it completely. If you open yourself to loss, you are at one with loss, and you can accept it completely. Open yourself to the Tao, then trust your natural responses, and everything will fall into place. And that concludes chapter 23 of the Tao Te Ching. In this chapter of the Tao is saying, be like nature, be like the forces of nature. As you exist as the Tao, you must open yourself to the Tao in order to become one with the Tao, and thus embody the Tao completely. This connects to knowing what you want in your energy field, having your heart open for that which nourishes your soul, that which is truly aligned with who you are. The Tao says if you open yourself to the Tao, you are at one with the Tao. So in the act of opening yourself to the source allows you to exist as the Tao, as one with the source. And you can embody the source completely. And the Tao says, open yourself to the Tao, then trust your natural responses. So, being authentic to you, who you are, is essential in this path. Existing as who you are, who your soul is essential in this path. The Tao is not asking you to let go of your nature. The Tao is asking you to trust, and everything will fall into place. So, this was a discussion and reflection on chapters 16 through 23 of the Tao Te Ching, including spiritual messages. If you resonate with this information, and if you liked this video, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for updates, and comment if you have any ideas about future videos you are interested in, or simply want to chat as we build this community. Thank you for listening and tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and have a great rest of your day and evening. In closing, I'd like for us all to take a moment to become mindfully aware of our own energy. Breathe in slowly and out. Ground yourself in this present moment. Grounding yourself in this present moment. Love, 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 and love. Love to you. Love, 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 and 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 love, love, love to you. Love to you, love to you, love, 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 and 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 love, 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 and love, and love, and love, and love, and love, and love to you.